And that's what we're doing here, and there's nothing wrong with that, and it's very important that we do that. So I would defend having one panel in philosophy, and then a third panel would be on, well, how do you actually do that? To just give one example, I have a son, Matthew, who's sort of a libertarian, and there was once a kids' libertarian thing, and all sorts of kids had a panel. And this is a U.S. libertarian convention. And all the other kids, what they were saying is, well, here's how you put posters up, and here's how you write letters, and here's how you do this. And my son is talking about, well, suppose the Martians do this, and, philosophical kinds of issues. Namely, he got it from me because that's my own interest. There's nothing wrong with the pragmatic part. But if you think that the only part of libertarianism is pragmatic, and we don't need any intellectual, philosophical input also, I disagree.
But I protest the use of the word pragmatism in relation to me.
Phil.
Hi, Jan. Thank you for your presentation so far. I really enjoyed it. And I just have a question in regards to some of the things you said. Let me just try to quickly formulate it. But you've referenced a few times to the fact that voluntary interactions are kind of preferable in general. Like people, rather than having like the spirit of Plato pointing at people and telling them not to use drugs, that people should have that choice. Is that fairly correct?
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you're kind of referencing an ideal when you talk about that. And I guess my question is about libertarianism. And so is libertarianism a voluntary system?
Libertarianism is a principle. Principles are either voluntary or involuntary. They have the content that they do, but it's a principle that calls for voluntary interaction as being the model for social interaction, yes.
Okay.
And can I add a small point to this? I think that's an important point. And by voluntary interaction, we mean as voluntary as possible. But when we cannot reach the best, a bit of voluntary action is better than the other. Let me give you an example. Well, it's just a general economic principle that more exchange is better than less exchange. So, of course, we are against people kidnapping other people because the kidnapping is presumably not actually voluntarily accepted by the person who's been kidnapped. But once the kidnapping has been done, there should be no reason to be against the kidnapped person buying off his liberty. Because if he agrees on a price with the kidnapper, they are both going to be better off, compared to what happened after the kidnapping, of course. Compared to what happened before the kidnapping, it's another thing. So, the more exchange between individuals we can have, the better. Even if we don't start from an ideal original property rights, Adam and Eve homesteading departure point.
I agree with Pierre that kidnapping is evil, but that it would be better to allow the person who's kidnapped to pay off than not to be killed. But I certainly don't agree that more exchange is better than less exchange.
Yeah.
That means that all we'll do is exchange. I mean, if more is better than less, well, then much more is better than more. I think this is just a slip of the tongue on his part. I can't believe he would disagree with this, that the optimal amount of exchange is the amount that we want to exchange, and it's not necessarily more or less.
It's not necessarily going to happen, is what he's saying. You have to work with what you have.
I agree with
But remember, voluntary poverty really is all right as long as we internalize it.
Well, if I say more choice is better than less choice, I don't mean that it's good to impose more choice to somebody who doesn't want more choice. I mean that if the person wants choice.
There are two more questions. There's Lilia and Stefan, and got to be quick here.
Do you look at the long-term consequences of what it is that you're doing? For example, if you keep paying off the kidnappers the ransom, are you not saying that this is a legitimate business and increasing the business of kidnapping in order to get money easy without working for it?
Yes, but I guess what I'm saying here is that there is no objection to any group of people mutually agreeing not to pay ransoms. If they think that it is in their best interest. But I guess that you're right, that if you allow this freedom, you might end up in a situation when there is more kidnapping. But I don't see any solution to this problem except by forbidding some people from entering into exchanges, which might be in their own interest.
Well, not all exchanges are legitimate. Murder Incorporated, if I hire Paul to kill Pierre, that's an illegitimate exchange, so not all exchanges are legitimate.